I require. Mathria, what did you do?
So you are a user. Fascinating. Follow me. To be transported to the combat training arena, step into the data stream. To pick up your disc, face it, and press the action key. Enter the data stream when finished. Now, the corruption has breached this sector. The objective when on a light cycle is to outlast your opponent without crashing. To win, force your opponent to crash into the trail left behind your light cycle or into some other solid object. Feel free to practice racing against these opponents. When finished, steer your light cycle over the exit icon.
Watch your 6 program.
Greetings programs, TRON FAQ here. Have you seen this yet? A while back, on June 30th of 2017, Disney posted this news on Steam mentioning that TRON 2.0 has been updated. Let's see what they had to say. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just the important part. We apologize for the compatibility issues we've been having with Windows 10, but we're happy to say that our top engineers pulled an Alan Bradley and solved the problem. Now, that statement is kind of vague and can be interpreted in more than one way, but I believe the takeaway impression that most people will have is that before this update, TRON 2.0 could not run on Windows 10, or at least that it wouldn't run well on Windows 10, and there's been some change to make the game run better. I think this statement also gives the impression that the Steam version was specifically updated to run on Windows 10, and that any earlier version of the game would not run on 10, or, again, not run as well. The same goes for the GOG version of TRON 2.0, that since the store page mentions Windows 10, that means the GOG release was updated for Windows 10. Let's do a bit of searching on the internet and see what people's impressions of the news is. Here on the German site GameStar, the headline is TRON 2.0 for Windows 10, game gets a new update after 14 years, one of the most creative shooters ever is finally being optimized for modern systems, at least partially. And in the article itself, it mentions TRON 2.0 after 14 years gets a new patch, and The Windows 10 optimization is just to make sure that the game is running. How about this article from 4Players Deutschland? The headline reads, TRON 2.0 patch for the 14-year-old game brings Windows 10 support. Oh yeah, and they also mention LDSO's killer app mod. Thanks! Over on Rock Paper Shotgun, the headline reads, TRON 2.0 just got patched to work for Windows 10. The article mentions that Disney just updated the Steam build of the 14-year-old FPS TRON 2.0 to work properly on Windows 10. And Disney have patched the game to boot properly on modern machines. Finally, let's take a look at a submission on the TRON subreddit. It reads, Public service address, TRON 2.0 on Steam has been patched for Windows 10. So what conclusion can we draw from all this? The news that the Steam version of TRON 2.0 was updated for Windows 10 has given pretty much everyone the impression that the game itself needed to be updated in some way, because up until now TRON 2.0 could not run on Windows 10, and that it applies to every version of the game older than the Steam and GOG releases, like the original retail release on disc. Now, let me move down a bit to this reply by RedRain85. Oh hey, that's me! Disney claiming that TRON 2.0 was updated to run on Windows 10 is actually stretching the truth a bit. The game itself wasn't updated at all, and it's always been capable of running on Windows 10. There haven't been any fixes or improvements in this regard. More details here if you want to read up on exactly what this update to the Steam version of TRON 2.0 consisted of, and there's a link to an article I wrote. The GOG version of TRON 2.0 has had no special updates for Windows 10 either, by the way. So am I right or wrong? Was the game, and by that I mean the game itself, updated to allow it to run on Windows 10? And it wasn't possible to get TRON 2.0 running on Windows 10 before now? If you've seen earlier videos here on the LDSO YouTube channel, you'll already know the answer. But, as a test, I'm going to install the original retail disc version on Windows 10 and see if I can get it running, to see if you really need to get the Steam or GOG versions to play the game on 10. Here's my TRON 2.0 retail version on CD, with me taking the first disc out of the case and putting it into the optical drive of my computer. And here's me installing the game on the Fall Creators update of Windows 10, which is the most recent version of 10 at the time I'm recording this. I've sped up the video so you don't have to sit through the actual length of time it took to install the game from disk, but I am showing you the entire installation process from start to finish. Now, at the end of installation, it asks you to restart the computer. But this step isn't necessary, so I'm going to skip it. It won't affect whether or not the game runs successfully after installation. Believe me, I know, because I stopped the recording in a minute and tried restarting anyway. Here you can see the notification when I put the first CD back into my optical drive, which I'll need when the game starts, because it checks for the presence of the first disc as part of the game's copy protection. So here I am, going through the options before I start the game, checking the sound settings, resolution, stuff like that. And here comes the moment we've all been waiting for. Will the game run? Unfortunately, no, it doesn't run. Does that mean we give up? That there's no way to make it work? Of course not. So why didn't the game work? And what can we do about it? Well, the reason the game didn't start is because of the copy protection. Or, as we often call it today, the DRM. The retail version of TRON 2.0 uses an old version of Secure ROM, which doesn't work on Windows 10 and prevents the game from starting. This old version of Secure ROM is nothing like the more modern version of Secure ROM that we all love to hate, by the way. It doesn't install itself on your computer, making it a pain to remove sometimes, and there's no online activation. The game executables are just wrapped in copy protection that checks for the presence of a disk in your optical drive. And my game disk was in the drive, as you saw earlier, so that's not a reason for the game not starting. There are a couple of ways we can solve this. Either we can download a crack to remove the copy protection, or we can download the fan-made unofficial patch. I'll be going with the latter option, because not only does the patch remove the copy protection, it also updates the game at the same time. I'm putting a link to the patch on the screen right now, and I'll also put it in the description below the video. This patch was released in 2003, the same year the game first went on sale at retail. It wasn't created by LDSO, by the way. I keep hearing people say that we created the unofficial patch, but all we've done is preserve it and make sure people can still easily download it to this day. It was actually created by someone who went by the nickname Riley Pizzed. So we've patched the game. Let's see if it runs now. Success! The original retail disc version of the game, with a patch from 2003, runs on Windows 10. Notice the game's version number on the main menu, version 1.042. Isn't that exactly the same as the Steam version? Now, you could make the argument that Disney did update the game itself and simply didn't bother to change the version number. But no, that's not the case. I've just shown that you can take the original retail disc version and get it to run on Windows 10. So then, what was that update to the Steam version of TRON 2.0 all about? What exactly did they update? I'm putting the link to an article I wrote on the screen now, and it'll also be in the description below the video. It explains exactly what the update to the Steam version of TRON 2.0 consisted of and why it was needed. Suffice to say, the game itself was not updated to run on Windows 10, because it didn't need to be. The Steam and GOG versions of the game are virtually identical to the patched retail disc version. No special updates were applied to the game itself for Windows 10. They all run the same. Rather, Disney introduced a flaw into the Steam version of the game that they took almost 3 years to fix. I'm going to let you watch some gameplay now to show the game running, but I wanted to mention that later on, the footage has spoilers in it if you haven't already played the game, so you might want to skip ahead to the end of the video. But if you stick around until I go into the game settings in a minute, I'll tell you how you can adjust the mouse if you find it's too sensitive in the game.
Lab drives 1, 2, and 4 infected.
Jet, we'll have to continue this conversation later.
Mathria, what did you do?
So you are a user. Fascinating. Follow me.
So this is me adjusting the sensitivity settings for the mouse because it was way too sensitive in the game at first, since I just installed it. If you have a modern mouse with a high DPI or a high polling rate of say 1000 Hz, you can try turning down both the mouse sensitivity and the mouse smoothing options. The mouse smoothing option in particular seemed to really help, and I didn't have to turn down the polling rate on the mouse. But if lowering these settings doesn't help, then try turning down the polling rate on your mouse to 125 Hz if you can. This should definitely help if you find the mouse too sensitive and hard to control in the game. This is TRON FAQ, signing out.
To be transported to the combat training arena, step into the data stream. To pick up your disc, face it, and press the action key. Enter the data stream when finished. Oh no, the corruption has breached this sector. Enter the exit, user. Step onto the platform.
Something's gone horribly wrong. Rami failed to transmit a data packet to my user. He must have been corrupted. He was so young. So many cycles left.
The only way out is up through here. In the next sector, there is an archive bin that contains a subroutine that will enable you to jump higher. This way, user. Welcome to the Light Cycle Racing Finals! In this double elimination match, Jet and Lad are squaring off on one side of the arena, while Mercury and 2D are on the other side. The winners will meet in the middle to decide the ultimate victor. Wait, what is Mercury doing? She's gone crazy! One of the observation towers is collapsing! Now she's...
Jet, do as I say and don't ask questions. Hurry, and make your way to the far side of the grid arena. Escape the arena by using the ramp made of debris. Do it now.
Hello, Jet. Mercury, you're,
Yes, I am. Then you're not half bad on the grid.
thanks.
I heard you mention Mathria. My user sent me to help her.
Who's your user?
I don't know. Goes by the name of Guest. We should get out of here.
How did you know I could hold my own out there?
I didn't.